Okay, we're live. Thanks everybody for joining us. So this is the September 1st Google Hangout for GameCredits, and today we have a really special hangout. We have two very important guests here discussing fantasy sports. It's our subject today. We have Rudiger, and he's here representing Super DT, and we have Matt, and he's our creative director. I mean, rather, he's our director of fantasy sports. I'm Michael, uh, the creative director and the PR manager. So today we're going to get into talking about fantasy sports, and I'll first ask Matt a question about how he first got involved with GameCredits, and if you could let us know how you got involved in that, I'll let you take the floor.
Well, I got involved with GameCredits. I knew Ivica Samatovic. I've known him for several years, and he introduced me to Malden and other members of the GameCredits team. And when I saw what they were doing, it was really intriguing. And they know my background in fantasy sports, and I thought, wow, this would be something that would be great for fantasy sports. And we started talking, and that's how I got involved.
Okay, and Rudiger, you met Matt at the Fantasy Sports Conference in New York, and so did you want to tell us how you got involved with GameCredits?
Hi. First of all, I didn't met Matt. It was my partner Christian that met
Okay.
him in New York, and we participated in the winter conference or in the summer conference of Fantasy Sports Trade Association, because we are doing fantasy football here for 5 years, and now we want to introduce the daily fantasy model to Latin American continent. And so we pitched at the same time as GameCredit did in New York. And when Christian came back with the informations of GameCredits, I have heard about cryptocurrency since a while. I was interested in it since a while. And so for us it seemed a really perfect combination to introduce this daily fantasy concept, real money prices, to Latin America, using GameCredits as innovative paying method, and as a paying method that allows us to offer fantasy football, the world's best championships, to the whole continent without having the problem of the monetization, because everybody's using different real or physical currencies emitted by banks. And so we started conversations with them in June, I think it was, this year, and now we really advanced, and we created a partnership so that we can be hopefully the first fantasy football game that offers leagues with real money prices using this cryptocurrency. So for us, it's a really astonishing adventure that is up to come, and hope we'll see all the fruits of this work that has to be done.
Okay, that's great. And Matt, can you tell us a bit about the fantasy sports industry? How big is this industry?
Well, the fantasy sports industry, just in the United States and Canada, there are over 56 million people playing fantasy sports, and there's several million more playing around the world as well. And just to give you some perspective, in 2015, DraftKings and FanDuel, the two biggest daily fantasy sports websites, did well over close to $3 billion dollars worth of business. So the fantasy sports industry is growing, and it's very popular here in the United States, and it's spreading throughout the world.
Okay, that's fantastic. And so what are some of the advantages that GameCredits can offer to the fantasy sports industry?
Okay, the main benefit is that it could save the fantasy sports industry a ton of money, because with daily fantasy sports, when you play a game, the company, just using DraftKings for example, gives back 90% of what they take in. They give back as prizes. However, they pay the bank fees, the transaction fees on the total amount that they take in. So that really multiplies their transaction fees by 10 because they're giving back 90% in prizes. So with game credits and no transaction fees, these fantasy sports companies can literally save, tens, you know, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, literally, that they can save in transaction fees. Additionally, I'm an avid fantasy sports player, so I have accounts on FanDuel, DraftKings, Fantasy Aces, Draft Day, Yahoo, several, Fantasy Score, and a few other fantasy sites as well. And I have all these separate accounts, and I have to put money in these accounts, and at the end of the season withdraw. But with game credits, if the whole industry were integrated with game credits, I would just have one account in my game credits wallet where I could just enter any game from any site from my wallet and get my winnings, back in my wallet instantly that night. So it's much more convenient for the users, and it would literally save tons of money for the fantasy sports sites as well.
Well, Rudiger, let me get into that the daily fantasy. Can you tell me how that's going to work with Super DT?
Yeah, it's really simple. Today we have a classical fantasy competition that works from journey to journey, but also season long. And so we want to create leagues where the users can present her team journey by journey, paying a several fee by using his game credit wallet, and then participate in these leagues, waiting for his points at the end of the journey, and hopefully get a lot of game credits back to his wallet, so that they can change it into real money and buy some nice football shoes, go to the stadium, or whatever they want to do with their money. We want to keep it really simple at the beginning. We think that fantasy football, as we talk about football, real football, not the American football, it's different. And as we know it in Europe since a long time, we want to keep that style of the competition for first, introduce it into this market here, because Latin America really doesn't have that much experience with fantasy football as it is with the users in Europe or in US. So basic concept will be really simple. User buys some game credits. He decides by his wallet in which league he wants to participate for 2 game credits, 5 game credits, or 10 game credits, and then take his winnings or not.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty clear. And so, Matt, tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that the fantasy sports industry is facing, both either in the USA or Latin America.
Well, I mean, one challenge that the fantasy sports industry is facing here in the U.S. is that the federal government and several states are challenging fantasy sports and considering it gambling, and in certain states have made fantasy sports illegal, and other states they have put in very restrictive regulations for the fantasy sports industry. So one of the challenges that they're facing now is trying to lobby and with the government and the state governments to show that fantasy sports is a game of skill and it's not gambling. And one aspect of game credits is that we have a strict no gambling policy, because the last thing a fantasy sports company wants to do in the U.S. is be associated with gambling. So game credits, we want to keep it family friendly. We have a lot of great products for the features for the web wallet that's going to really be great for kids. So we wanted to keep it out of the gambling realm, which also helps with the fantasy sports.
Okay, that's great. And Rudiger, you want to give some of your insight into the challenges facing the Latin American market and how game credits or some other solutions can help solve those problems.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is a little bit different here in Latin America. There's still no big regulation. I mean, Chilean market is quite regulated, what means sports betting and all this stuff. So it will be a similar discussion here. Is fantasy football or fantasy sports considered as gambling, or is it a game of skills? But I think the whole discussion in US turned around about this skill, or about this question, skill and gambling, just because some states that are really present, or where big casinos are really present, use this topic to attack this industry. I mean, it's clearly not a game of luck. We all know that we play fantasy games. We know our black beasts that win all the leagues. I mean, who plays fantasy football knows if you put time on it, if you dedicate yourself in these games, in these sports, you will be good. This has nothing to do with luck. I think in US they just use it to attack, because there are some special interest groups that are really powerful, and they use that. Other states like New York recently confirmed that, and fantasy football is not gambling. But it's not the really question. I think the question is how societies want to regulate the market of online gaming at the whole thing. And we can look at really good examples in Europe, like Spain or Great Britain, where the market is really got regulated, and it led to one really good thing. The illegal offers, the offshore offers that we find in the whole world, and here in Latin America too, they start to disappear, and the good players, legal operators, gains force for the market. So there are good games that either protect consumers as they do protect the operators that operates within the margin, within the legal margin, and that offer games that really of high quality and that people can enjoy, and where the people know that their money is safe and that the rules are followed. So I think this is the question, and this is what I think that they try to do in US too at the moment. Governments have to see that they have to regulate that market. They can't ban these games. If they ban these games, if they ban the legal offers, it simply will lead to that we have a lot of illegal offers that are settled down in Panama, in Virgin Islands, or wherever, and the societies that play these games, they will play it anyway, but the society won't win nothing out of these games, because they are operated by companies tax-free in Gibraltar or in Virgin Islands in Panama. So I think this will be the same development here in Latin America, and the markets, all the governments are talking about. Colombia, the law is be waited to be signed soon in the next weeks, and it will include fantasy sports as simple an online gaming with licensing fees and clear rules how to operate and how to play these games. And I think this is the only way that we can take if we want to really protect consumers, and to also protect the companies that try to work legally and in a clean way.
Well, thank you for that very clear explanation. And Matt, what are some of the benefits that the players of fantasy sports games might, if they saw game credits, what would entice them to want to use them in fantasy sports games? What's their incentive?
Well, the game credits, I mean, it would be much more convenient. As I mentioned earlier, all the different accounts that I have with all the different fantasy sports companies. Additionally, when I win money in a certain fantasy sports game, it just goes back into my account with that company, and I don't withdraw that until the end of the season. It doesn't make sense to keep taking money out and putting money back into each account with each fantasy sports company. So my money's really tied up for the whole season. But with your GameCredits wallet, you can use that for a fantasy sports game, or I could play other games with my GameCredits wallet, or send them to friends, or purchase items, or even play Super DT, real football down in Chile. So I have a lot more flexibility with what I can do with my GameCredits wallet.
Right. Yeah, that definitely is a clear advantage. And are there any topics that you wanted to talk about? Anything on your mind about it? Any questions I haven't covered yet that you wanted to touch on?
Well, I just want to say that we're very excited to have Super DT as a GameCredits partner, because that really expanding fantasy sports internationally in other countries, and really connecting GameCredits with fantasy sports. This is really the start of something big. Super DT, aside from having an excellent platform, they see the vision, they see the future, and I think they're going to lead other fantasy sports companies to using GameCredits as well.
Uh-huh. So we're seeing the huge potential of this, fantasy sports integrating with GameCredits, and Super DT as the newest partner is sort of paving the way for the rest of the fantasy sports companies to get involved. Now, players in Latin America, if they wanted to get GameCredits, what would be a way that they could get GameCredits? Because I know that PayPal, is something that they would have to use, and there's some restrictions on using local currency.
I bought recently GameCredits with my PayPal account in Chile without any problems. Really secure, way two-factor authentication, and the rest was really quick and really simple. And I think there in the majority of the countries here in Latin America there are possibilities. I know there's possibility to do it in Argentina. And as I heard yesterday in a very interesting meeting with the GameCredits guys, there will be soon a lot of possibilities to acquire GameCredits in very easy ways. But
okay,
I think Matt knows more about that than I do.
I'm going to share these links here. This is the places in Chile and Argentina where people can exchange their local currency to PayPal, and then they can buy GameCredits.
Yes.
So this is one solution, and as you said, there's a more permanent solution that we're in the process of developing that will just make it easy for everybody to get involved.
Yeah.
And it's a huge investment as well, too, right? If people bought GameCredits, the upside would be that they could potentially see their investment grow over time, and so this might be a good time to get GameCredits.
So that's what I personally thought. That's why I bought GameCredits, because I think it's clear that the cryptocurrencies will have a winning or will triumph in this world. Soon we will all get involved with these cryptocurrencies. Recently, last week, there's a big notice: the biggest banks making a group and creating their own coin to make it more easier to transfer money from the one bank to the other. It will be called settlement coin. So soon, if we make a transaction to Spain or whatever, or to another country, we will do it by using these coins. Blockchain technology will triumph. I'm for sure. So for me it's a really interesting investment strategy too. What I want to do with my money.
Right.
And I want at the point that we are talking about investment, maybe I've sent you recently a link in Skype. Michael. I want to invite to everybody to join this adventure too. We are at the moment in a fundraising round by a crowdfunding platform in Chile that's called brota.com. Maybe you can put the link on the screen that I've sent you. We have possibility for foreigners to invest really simple thanks to a new instrument that we use that's called SAFE. So you can find all informations on this platform. There will be soon a video too that explains really our project. Started here from Chile and hopefully being online this year for the whole continent, offering the best fantasy football.
Okay,
the
can you
real
spell the
football.
link for me so I can put it on the screen?
I put it in Skype. I've in our.
You could just put it in Skype, and I'll put it up on the screen for everybody.
Here it is.
Okay. So let me just screencast here.
So I think really, and we see one of our strategies is also using game credits as a cryptocurrency that for sure will triumph in the gaming industry. So I think it's a really interesting moment to join our journey.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the link.
Here's the link right here. You can see it up on the screen. Bruta.com and the rest here.
/emprendimiento/superdt.
Yeah, I'll
Soon
put it
the
up just one
campaign
more
will.
time here.
Cool. Soon the campaign will be online. We hope to have it online next week. But anybody is free to contact us by the platform, or if you want, you can put my email direction too. There's no problem, Michael.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. Any final thoughts, Matt?
No, I just want to say, Michael, thanks for hosting this this hangout. I hope people got some great information, and certainly, check out our website, GameCredits.net, and check out SuperDT. And I'm very confident they're going to do really well. Check out their crowdfunding campaign, and just follow us on YouTube and Facebook, and I will keep you posted how things are going.
Okay, thanks you two for being great guests, and on behalf of the audience, thanks to both of you, and also thank the audience, for joining us today, and we'll see you at the next hangout.
All right,
Fine, thank you for your host.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.